Welcome to day 60 of 120 days living underwater for the Guinness World Record. Let's go to our Seapod home, 11 meters underwater, to see what's new.
Hello, everyone. So today we have a special video we are doing. We are underwater in our underwater room. Rudy is continuing his underwater Guinness World Record attempt. And we have two special guests for our talk today. We have Christian Klaas and Torsten Naum. Christian Klaas is professor of neurotechnology at Ruhr University Bochum. Research interests include brain-computer interfaces, virtual reality, medical AI, and he has stayed at Caltech as a postdoc between 2011 and 2016. He's already given talks on transhumanism and virtual bodies and society's relation towards technology. Then we have Torsten Naum, who is the head of data science at DKB, a large German bank. He's responsible for AI development, one of the founders of the German Society for Transhumanism in 1998. He's the founder and board member of the European Biostasis Foundation, a cryonics storage and research facility located in Switzerland. So welcome, gentlemen. I'm going to put Rudy on the call on this side, and then we can get this discussion started.
Hi, guys. Long time no see.
That's true.
Yeah, if you are wondering
it's getting more biblical every time.
Yeah, this is because I thought I'm not going to shave until I'm out of here.
Sounds great.
So I'm going to look like Moses or Karl Marx maybe when I'm out of here. I hope I'm not adopting the philosophy of Karl Marx in the meantime.
It's almost Christmas.
Let's see, you still have 60 days or so to go. Let's see what that does with
you. Indeed. Yeah, 63 days. I can see that the clock from here, and 20 hours. Yeah. So the reason for that talk was actually that meme that this is like a vanity project for the rich. I encountered that meme a number of times, and it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, as you can imagine. So I started to think about it, and I found out, of course, what bothered me about it, why it is wrong. So of course it bothers me because it's kind of going against what I'm doing here, but it also bothered me because it feels wrong. And one of the reasons was, of course, that a lot of things that we are now considering essential started out as vanity projects, such as, let's say, the mobile phone network. You know, at the time when they had car phones, they were too big to carry it in your pocket, so they put it into cars. That was kind of vanity. I mean, who needed that?
I mean, I would say lots of the research in the 18th and 19th century was basically vanity of some like nobles who had too much time and too much money, right?
Exactly. So that is a funny thing. As there is technical progress or even societal progress, what used to be vanity becomes a necessity. Like a mobile phone is now a necessity. You can't really live without it. Not in a modern world. I mean, you can survive without it, but you cannot really live and function in the modern world. And so I thought, what would that progress be that turns what we are doing here and similar things into necessities or something? And obviously, there is a big game changer on the horizon, the AI revolution. So I would like to put these two topics together. And the AI revolution is a little bit different to what we experienced previously. I think in the progress, because previous progress was essentially replacing muscle power, not so much brain power. Like you have a backhoe that replaces shovels. So in this case, we are much more getting to the core of what it is to be human. That is intelligence. So we are going to see massive layoffs like we saw in previous tech revolutions. And we are going to see a replacement of jobs if we are doing it right. I'm just putting forward my thoughts of it, and
Yeah.
I think when I'm done, I let you go with that in pretty much any direction you wish. So I like to categorize jobs in what I call know how, know what, know why, and know who. So know who, I mean, that is obvious. We have that all the time. There's even a saying, it's more important who you know than what you know. Know what? What I mean by that is knowing what you want to do. Defining goals, essentially. Knowing why you want these goals. What is the reason? Why does Elon Musk want to fly to Mars, let's say? And then there's the know-how, and the know-how is essentially how to fix the plumbing, how to program, how to stitch up a wound or something. So I was identifying, maybe you can add to that, 4 potential scenarios in the future. Oh, there's something I would like to add, and that is the AI revolution I'm talking about now is an AI that is maybe more powerful than it is now, but essentially the same. So the main thing is there is nobody home. And
it's a tool, basically, is what you're saying. It's not going to have its own will. It's not going to be like a daemon-like scenario, but it's just going to be a super powerful tool. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, so we are excluding sentient AI, qualia, all these discussions, I think, for this talk, and the singularity, of course. That might be an interesting topic for another talk. But at this talk, I would like to focus on a future scenario where we are stuck with super powerful AI, but not sentient AI, not AI that is human. Nobody home, essentially, AI.
Yeah. So you're excluding everything agentic that's going on right now.
Yeah, the word agent is a little bit problematic because it has 2 different meanings. One is you have systems of many LLMs and other things that are called agents. And then you have, of course, the philosophical term, somebody has agency. So yeah, the 4 different scenarios I identified is we are getting massive unemployment. So jobs get replaced by AI. The jobs that are newly created, at least the know-how jobs that are newly created, are also replaced, are also taken over by AI. And that's pretty much it. So we are ending up with a pretty bleak future. And I think that is very similar to what we're going to get if we are doing UBI or something. So we would end up with a future where, I don't know how many, 2 or 5% of humanity is feeding the rest. So we would have 2 classes. We have a Lumpenproletariat, and we have an elite of people who are actually productive. So the other possibility
is that true? I mean, if you are saying that the jobs are replaced by AI, then technically those people that created the AI are also doing nothing, right? So it's not only some people that are fed by others. We are all fed by the machine in the end.
Well, the thing is, the assumption is that nobody is home. That means we do not have any AI that can define goal, that can have wishes. And I cannot wish. So a human. So I mean, this is a kind of nice job to have. So you are allowed to wish and get paid for it. So what you're doing is you're telling essentially the AI what to do. That kind of entrepreneurship. And
everybody's going to be a CEO if he wants to, right?
yeah, that is exactly where I'm getting at. And this is the scenario I'm calling golden age. So let's assume 99% of jobs get replaced. Because well, that means that if we grow the economy by 100-fold, then everybody has a job, roughly. I mean, of course, it's not going to be that is not going to be a precise formula. And what I'm getting at is we can do unbelievable things then. That is not a technical singularity, but it's almost looking like one. So it might actually get us to a Kardashev type 2 scale. So we have everybody has incredible economic power at their fingertips. You talk to AI, and AI is doing what you want. And that is something where we have to, and what we have to do is realizing vanity projects like this one, or like flying to Mars, like Elon Musk wants. And then we might optionally also talk about a kind of a worst case scenario as I see it, and that is called green shrinking, or green Luddites, as we might want to call it. So this is a popular current in the green parties of the world, which means there shouldn't be green growth, there should be green shrinking. I think in Germany there is a lady that is a pretty famous proponent of that, Ulrike Hermann. And if you think about that, if you think about that colliding and a philosophy of essentially state managing of resources and stuff like that, and limiting of resources, that's the point. If you collide that with AI, with the AI revolution that we are just talking about, you are essentially ending up with a class of, I mean, a long time ago they would have been called useless eaters. I guess the proponents of the green shrinking theory might call them useless CO2 emitters or something. And obviously, my preference would be to end up with a golden age. So that is my introduction to that. What do you think?
Well, do you want to start, Thorsten?
Oh, sure. So, I mean, touching on the last thing first, I mean, that might happen, although I find it quite ridiculous. Because obviously, I mean, basically taken to the extreme, and there's some environmental activists that actually propose this, is that humans should eliminate themselves, so not to be a burden on nature anymore. And to that, I say, I mean, humans are like the only chance nature has to survive the next few 100 million years, because without humans, the Earth is just going to become too hot, become engulfed by the sun, right? So, I mean, basically, human life is the only chance for sustainable life we have on the planet at the moment. But that's, of course, just a side remark. I mean, I know you said the scenario is that we have a non-sentient AI, so AI without agency. My feeling is that this is going to be historically an extremely short period, right? So that basically once you get to the point that AI is really as powerful as you've described, it'll just be a few more jumps to have like this full agency and AI that is actually, superhuman in basically every respect, that also carries out its own agendas. How that will play out is, of course, a story for a different time. But I think it's quite an interesting scenario to think about what would it do to society if basically everybody is their own CEO, right? Has like these powers to basically wield a whole company, and AI is doing all the work for them, like all the grunt work, the know-how, and also partially the know what, I think, right? And yeah, it would be interesting to see what people do with that, whether they do lots of stupid stuff, right? Or it actually, as you say, ushers in a golden age. And yeah, I'm certainly looking forward to exploring that with you.
Yeah. So from my side, I would say that I would completely agree that the period of time where we have AI without agency will be very short. I mean, there's already all these movements about agentic using the LLMs that talk to each other, creating some kind of society of mind. So that was the idea of Marvin Minsky also, that our brain is a society of mind, like several agents that are basically communicating to each other. So that I also see. If you really want to talk about a future where that does not happen or where that hasn't happened yet, then the question would be who is in control of the machines that are doing all the work. So on the one side, you would have all the LMMs or whatever you would call those machines that are doing the mind work, I would say. And then there's also the question where who owns the robots and how is the control of or the control over these resources distributed in society. And there will be different models. I'm pretty sure that there will be some countries that will go yeah, the route that you envision, Rüdiger, that is, for example, the US, like basically giving everyone this CEO role, and those that are not swimming with the stream or with the other fish will be caught or not, yeah, basically have nothing like it is already in the US. And there will be other countries that will potentially try to, yeah, democratize the whole thing, like the EU is doing. Not very good. I completely agree with that, but at least that's their goal. And then there will be yet others that might want to centralize the whole thing, right? To have people not having access to, let's call them thinking machines. And there's the dictator sitting somewhere ordering his robot army around, and the peasants have no control at all. I mean, these are all possibilities that could all work within that scenario, and probably different countries will go different routes here. I hope I share your hope that we will rather end in a golden age where we are CEOs have a relatively free society where everyone is reaping the benefits of that rather than getting into some kind of dystopia. And I'm an optimist, so I think that we will reach that hopefully. But I don't take it for granted. So I don't say that without doing something that will automatically arrive on its own. So I think there is enough people in the world that would rather see be basically the boss on the lone dictator that is controlling everything without everyone else having power. So there's enough people that think that this is the right way to go.
I mean,
You raised an interesting point. Oh, sorry.
one of the issues is, of course, will there be a good competition between different systems? So if you have a state that is trying to monopolize AI, like treating it like weapons are treated in most countries, that you need heavy license in order to get it, or you don't get it at all. Like Germany is a country where you, even with the license, you are not getting a gun, right? Or barely.
Or for hunting.
I think hunting, yeah, is the only thing. And if there's countries that treat AI in a similar way, where it's pretty much illegal to do that, except for companies that are very close to the state or the state itself, of course, I guess it will always be legal for the state. But such a country will probably not be very competitive to countries like maybe the United States. So I'm also thinking about the GCC states, all these states around the Arabian Gulf, that seem to have a very proactive approach to AI and seem to want to deregulate as much as possible in the economic area. I mean, not about drinking alcohol maybe, but about economics. So I imagine these countries might just do better. And that means people of the more regulated country, like the EU might be, or China, say, they might just migrate into these countries. And that's
As they're already doing now in parts, right?
that now, yeah.
I mean, and I think that's one thing we can do, right? Is to bit of extrapolate on similar things we're actually observing now, right? There's countries that simply offer a much better ecosystem, a better infrastructure, better tools, right? So people are flocking there because they know they can make their work go further, right? I was also wondering, I mean, Christian made a good point, right? Mentioning robotics. Like Rudiger, that's, I guess, a question for you. Like, is advanced robotics part of your scenario, or is it really just thinking work which is replaced?
No, absolutely,
Because
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. For a company like this, I mean, you can imagine if you have a robot that can move, maybe a humanoid robot or maybe another form factor, doesn't matter, a robot that can weld like a human can do. So it doesn't need to be supervised, even if the steel plates don't really fit together. That would be a game changer, I think. I mean, steel is one of the most important construction materials. All ships are made of steel, pretty much all ships, with a few exceptions. And that's a pretty big part. Buildings are made of steel, large buildings. So welding is one of the biggies. So I imagine that something like what is it called? Optimus or something?
Yeah.
Can actually these jobs. And that is
Sure.
yeah, so other things might be, of course, construction itself, like buildings. And we have robots in industries that are building lots of similar and smaller products like cars. But AI is, of course, a game changer in the industry where you are not building a lot of similar products like ships.
Yeah.
Well, and if you have these robots that are basically replacing all the manual work as well, then it is really up. The question would really be up who is owning these production machines. That so either you will have it concentrated in some hands. So I'm not sure that you're less that competitive if you are a dictator, basically ruling over all your robot army that is like digging up stuff and building, I don't know, war machines or whatever. And I don't think that it's necessarily less competitive than a country where that is more distributed among the people. So I think there's really a danger, particularly if there is like a time gap. I mean, that's what all the big guys in AI are talking about, like the takeoff time difference between different countries, so different companies. For example, if you have someone who is almost there, but the other one is lacking 6 months behind, that might be a big might make a big difference. If they are basically starting at almost the same time, then they might have some chance to compete against each other. But if the time gets larger, bigger, then basically the first one will decide how everything will be run.
Don't you
Right?
think
The first one who has these robots will dominate the complete market potentially.
I mean, if they're good, right? I mean,
hold
we've
on.
seen that a lot
Pause
with.
for a second, I have a computer thing.
No worries.
Okay, should be good now.
Yeah, Christian, that is an interesting thought, but I'm wondering if countries that are like authoritarian in that way aren't kind of stuck with the production that we have now. That means they replacing all their workers and maybe giving them some bullshit jobs, which is actually what a lot of countries were doing lately. I mean, the EU is famous for that. I think that's a term, bullshit job, right?
Yeah.
So don't you think these kind of societies are stuck with either bullshit job or unemployment. That means my scenario won.
You mean the more authoritarian ones, or which, I mean, I think societies that give a lot of economic freedom, that foster entrepreneurship, will of course profit a lot more, because basically you're giving every person like a huge army, right, to get all the stuff done which they're trying to get done. So what you really need to think, as you were saying, right, it's the know why, like understanding where you want to go, setting the strategy, understanding the trends and the market, right? And I think AI can be an extremely powerful tool if people are allowed to use it for that purpose, right? So I do agree that all societies that are not that great on entrepreneurship, right, and Europe has really been lagging behind in that, will probably fall behind even more.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you said about the EU. I mean, we have had it's self-made problems. The whole idea of the GDPR, right? That is a big, shot in your own knee. Really, what we've done
It's like
there.
really ridiculous if you think about it, right? The EU wants to be like the star pupil of the class, doing everything right, being very cautious and careful. But that's not how revolutions are forged. This is not how big states are being built, right? It's rather the sort of the brutal capitalism which has made the US so successful.
Yeah, that is true. But the other players, and that is what people have been worried about, is that I mean, in former times when we didn't have these thinking machines, it was a big advantage to have a capitalist society where everyone was basically competing against each other, and the best idea would succeed. But if you imagine, I mean, you have the same amount of robots either distributed by 1 million people or by 50 people that are the ruling class, then that might be as efficient, right? I mean, that they could potentially, they could tell the robot army that it would just be more robots per person that are doing, and the will that you can project. So the coordinated will of doing a certain thing, for example, going to Mars, right? I mean, if Elon Musk could take the entire US economy and forge it towards a path towards Mars, that would be much faster than when he's just having the power to control the people in his own company. And now imagine you have like you have Putin wielding a robot army the size of the populace of Russia to do his bidding. And there's no, and then you have a country like the US where you have millions of people that are all having a few robots doing something, and they cannot really agree on something, and then they will be just basically overtaken by a country where that is more coordinated, like the original idea of fascism, right? It was like everyone is like working together jointly for a goal. I mean, that is, I think, where the term fascism comes from. And that was not very successful because you were hindering this free competition. But now if you have the robots doing or knowing all this, having the know-how in the hands of the thinking machines, then that doesn't apply anymore. And that, I think, is the danger that we are facing at the moment.
Okay, any guess what would actually prevail? I mean, what changes actually from previous tech revolutions? So in the past, I mean, obviously the West won the Cold War. That's why we got so arrogant. Now cut that, please. So yeah, the West won the Cold War because of because it is a free society, because of entrepreneurship. So the Eastern Bloc had a lot of issues. I mean, one of the most interesting ones I found is they cannot even tell if a finished product is actually worth more than the materials or the half products it is made out of, because that is an answer that only the market can give you. So the Soviet Union and the Comic-Con at the time. This was the Soviet economic bloc, the Comic-Con. They were essentially depending on the West on letting them know what actually is worth making. So is a car worth more than the ore it is made of?
Yeah.
And so Christian, you obviously propose that something about that changes. There must be, if you are right, a fundamental change in the economy once we are moving from AI to AI. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess even if we don't have AGI or ASI, if you have agents that are basically doing all the know-how, no humans are involved in that, then if you have a large enough army of robots, let's say, then you basically can produce everything. What need is trade then? I mean, trade is necessary when you have people that one person can do this thing better, the other person can that thing better. If you have an army of robots that can do everything better, then you don't need that. Then you just need the raw materials, and then you build whatever you
Yeah,
want.
but that's the point, Christian, because the robots won't be able to transmute atoms. And a lot of the trade, is based on simply that many very important materials like lithium or other metals are not globally equally distributed, right? So you have certainly there needs to be trade, at least in the raw materials in the future. And it could, and I wouldn't see why not certain countries would then specialize their robot armies on building electronic gadgets and others on machines and so on. I don't think we're talking about like a Drexler type scenario, right? With nanoassemblers being able to build everything, but rather having like highly sophisticated robots controlled by extremely advanced AI. And I think specialization might still make a lot of sense in a scenario like that.
Yeah, but most things that you build nowadays, every country or most bigger countries have all the resources that they need to build those things. I mean, a car can be built in Germany, it can be built in Mexico, and it can be built in Russia. And the raw materials, steel, okay, that is also present very, very, very well distributed in the earth. There are certain raw materials that are, then it's probably justified about raw materials that you don't have, that you would
But it
need.
really depends. We're not talking singularity here, right? And the ramp up for some technologies is huge. Obviously, there's just two countries in the world that can really build the cutting edge computer chips at the moment, which is Taiwan and South Korea, right?
But there's not
The
material
US.
there. The silicon is everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And here it's like the specialization that it's really, really hard to build a latest generation chip fab, right? So I'm not sure whether this will really be a big equalizer. I think it'll be just like a turbo boost to current developments. And as Rudy pointed out, there could be some really other scenarios on the table, right? Because people might get extremely lazy because there's really not much of an incentive to work hard anymore, right?
Yeah, that's
I think we're seeing that in Germany already today, right? The difference between the social security and what the lowest paying jobs get you is so small that many people just don't bother.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's like, yeah.
That is a problem. I completely agree. If we are, that is generally a problem with AI. If we are dependent and nobody knows anymore. I remember that you probably have also seen Wall-E, right? The movie with a little robot, and then there's this society where nobody knows how to do things actually anymore, how to steer the spaceship. It's all done by computers, and then the society becomes lazy, and nobody does anything more other than leisure. And that is a problem. I agree. I hope that we hopefully have enough diversity in society that doesn't get out of hand, hopefully. But yeah, it is a problem.
Yeah, or it might go the wrong way. The question is whether like Western societies are more prone to that sort of scenario, because I'm sure that China is not going to take that route anytime
Hold
soon,
on for a
right?
second. We're going to make a cut. Hey, Uwe, I'm currently in a talk, so I call you back later. Very sorry for that.
No worries. So what was I saying? So I think the issue might be that Western societies are more likely to go down that route than authoritarian states, like let's say China, right? And so this might really pose large danger.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that the people are generally different. If it was possible for them to work less, then they would also do that. But the power structure is different. So, if there's an authoritarian regime, then it can more easily basically take over control than it would be possible here or in the US.
I mean, really, it's difficult to say. I mean, Rudy, you said at the beginning, right? Then basically with AI, 2% of people can feed humanity. But the interesting fact is, if you take that literally, this is already the case, at least in Western countries, right? Because agriculture, as a sector, there's less than 2% of people working in agriculture, and they can feed basically the whole populace, right? But of course, you need much more than that, right? But still, I mean, it does show you that so far humans have been able to find new productive uses of their time. But of course, the big game changer is now people, then industry change from agriculture to manufacturing to services. But of course, services are thinking, and if thinking is taken over by machines as well, it's not really clear what's going to happen, right? Maybe maybe being authentically human will be a value by itself. I mean, if you look at the AI art these days, some of it is pretty good, but still human-made art sells for a lot more in general. So maybe the authenticity of getting a haircut done by a human or having your house designed by a human will still pay a premium.
Yeah, that is probably not enough to run an economy to have these service type jobs. So I think at the core of the economy is going to remain the same type of stuff that we see now, like machines. I mean, this could be incredible machines if we use scenario 3, the golden age, like interplanetary spaceships or like launch loops or like Dyson spheres or Dyson swarms. It could be any of that. I mean, the question is, of course, that we have to answer the question, why? So that requires to know why. Why would you build a Dyson swarm? But if we did that, actually, then that would mean there is probably enough to do for everybody for quite some time.
The question is like how many people would be willing to take on that sort of job or have that sort of leaning, right? And my guess is it's only a very small fraction that has sort of this. I mean, if you look back at the transhumanist societies through which we know each other, right? This has always, it was like 1 in a million thing of people that were interested in that sort of stuff. And I wonder whether that would change, right?
I mean, who can afford it? Buy yachts.
Sorry.
What I'm saying is people who can afford it buy yachts, and people who can afford bigger yachts buy bigger yachts. So owning, let's say, a space station or a spaceship, that might be the new yacht.
I think
so we're back to the productive vanity projects of the rich, right?
I mean, it depends really on ambition, right? I mean, you have to have someone who has some kind of vision, and then putting a lot of effort in there. And that has been in the past the same. I mean, those people that discovered the Americas, I mean, they were also a very tiny fraction of people that would dare and that would believe in doing so. And so you can look through all of history. I'm pretty sure that it's always a small fraction of people who were more eager to discover new stuff and explore. Then there were people who were tried to be on the safe side. And that's probably also a good thing because also many people who tried the dangerous things died, right? So, and I mean, there was a like I would say a function from evolution in this division of society that you had some people who like stayed at home. I mean, interesting thing is that I know a lot of people who really like to stay where they were born. Where I was always, I like to travel and to get to know new places, but that's not. And I thought that was the normal way to think. But I think there's a lot of people that don't have this urge to go somewhere, this itch for something unknown, as in Moby Dick it was written. And so, I mean, maybe that's the thing, and maybe those people that will go to the stars are those people that are more interested in doing entrepreneurial things. And you will always have, but we also like other humans, so we will probably keep I mean, we keep other people around, even though we know that they are not really having a worth for society in the sense of economic worth, because we just enjoy their company, right? So that is probably also a reason why there will still be a lot of humans.
Yeah, I mean, Rudy, coming back to like your scenarios of sort of, I think there's always going to be people who are who have that entrepreneurial spirit, and they will have like this incredible power at their fingertips with with sophisticated AI. Will be able to do much more stuff, like build spaceships and as you said it, right? And then the question between it becoming a golden age and sort of a leaden age will be like, this is of course going to cause huge instability in society. How would that turn out, right? There could be like dystopian scenarios where the instability is so big that basically society collapses, right? Or that lots of people, as you said, the Lumpenproletariat, then basically bog down everything, right? Or it could be that it really ushers in a new golden age for explorers.
Obviously, I hope that it's the last one, that there's enough people who are interested in that. I mean, the UBI. I mean, everybody knows that I'm very skeptical of that. So I see people ending up really as couch potatoes, either playing computer games or watching shows with UBI. If that is really, this is really what
I mean, in Germany, you basically have UBI, right? I mean,
Well,
kind of, yeah. I mean, it's not unconditional. It's not an unconditional income. You need to be without job to get that.
but
That
in
is,
practice, I think it's pretty easy to figure out how to game the system or to pretend to show interest in the labor market. So actually, an acquaintance of mine, he was living with my brother in a like shared flat for some time, had really managed to do that, right? Basically, for years, he just managed not to get his income cut, like the subsidies cut, and still basically it was clear he wasn't going to do anything with his life. So I'd say, like, for all intents and purposes, you pretty much have UBI in Germany, and
it's not
it really does show the issues.
it's not actually how it was intended, right? So the idea was that the UBI is what you're getting at any rate, and then if you earn additional money, you get that too.
Yeah, and
And
that's a big difference, right? I mean, that would make the UBI, in my opinion, much better than the current system because it incentivizes labor more in a way.
yeah, I was interested in this whole UBI thing, and a couple of weeks ago, I asked ChatGPT o1 preview to if it is actually feasible, because I mean, people were saying, oh, we do the UBI in Germany, and I mean, I know some people who are proponents of that and some who are really against it, like Rudiger. And so I just wanted to know the numbers, and it says basically, I have it open here. It says that the total cost for a 1,000 euro UBI for everyone in Germany would be 996 billion per year. And the saving potential, because people are then saying, okay, you save because you don't need the all the jobs for the job center and so on, the people that decide who gets money, that is only a savings of around 100 billion. So the cost is 891 billion, and I think the amount available by the government is something like 400 or so 400 billion.
That amount seems staggering from today's point of view, but we assume that we are going to have an economic or a potential economic growth of a factor of 100 or something. And if you
Yeah, but then also the cost, I mean, then 1,000 euro will also not be enough, right? I mean, that will also scale up. I mean, if you put more money in the system, that's basically like inflation then.
yeah, if it's just more money, I mean, if it's not genuine growth, if it's just more money, then it's inflation. Yeah, definitely. But if it's like 100 times as much money hunting 100 times as many products, then it's not inflation.
I mean, think about how cheap flour has become, right? I mean, eggs used to be quite precious at the time my grandparents were small, right? And now you get a dozen for a couple of euros, right? So I think that's what Rudy is getting at, right? You've got you would have an increase on productivity that would really make UBI totally feasible.
Yeah,
Is
so
that a state?
you would be probably limited to a lifestyle that we have pretty much now. So probably no private drone and certainly no spaceships for you if UBI is your income. And that might be the incentive. The question is, and I think that is what you guys, both of you have, I think hinted at many times is that maybe enough? So some people might have the private jets and maybe the spaceships, like Elon Musk, for example, our favorite example. And a very large part of humanity is happy with living a life pretty much as a modern proletariat. That means they have enough to eat, they have enough to go about their daily life, but they don't have to work and they can play computer games and that's it.
But probably that wouldn't even matter, right? Not in a historical perspective, because that would be life on Earth, right? But obviously, what we're looking for is at least to colonize the Milky Way, right? And so the humans that that sort of explorer types to do that would soon form the majority because the Milky Way is simply huge, right?
Yeah, that's a good point, I think. But this is not a very good point for those people who are left behind, in a way. So what you are saying is there's two possible scenario. Everybody becomes an entrepreneur, and then everybody is on board, or a lot of people are not on board and they are going to be left behind and they don't matter.
Yeah.
But you have something in between, right? You have some people who are explorers and having the golden age for themselves, and you have some that basically don't want to live that life. Which I think, I mean, I think society can afford a certain amount of lazy people. Just if it gets too big, if the percentage is getting too big, that's a problem. I mean, I think we all agree that, for example, people who who are diseased or old need support, right? So we are doing that. We're sustaining certain people that can't live on their own, and that's okay. If, of course, if you had such a large proportion of the populace that would not be able to work or do something productive, then the system doesn't work. So that's the problem that Germany, for example, faces at the moment, right? So we were used to a lot of growth at the time when a lot of social protection stuff was established. And now the economy is not running well. Now the rules are getting more strict, and we are getting back away from UBI more in towards like very controlled and restricted access. So I guess that will probably regulate itself to a certain extent, at least.
Yeah, and also, I mean, as Rudy was saying, right, with that sort of advanced AI, there would be like the pie would be just so much bigger. And I think what I would be much more concerned is like, Rudy, I think you mentioned it in your intro statement, like the dangers from ludism, right? Because the sort of the upheavals through that sort of uh, increase in production rates in such a short time would make the Industrial Revolution look laughable, right? And we know that this was a time of huge upheaval with also Luddites trying to stop this progress, right? And so we might see all of this, but on a much grander scale again.
Yeah, Luddites are dangerous.
Uh,
In
that's
general,
a problem if you have that proletariat. A lot of people who are essentially fed and have nothing to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the real big danger to humanity. I mean, I'd posit that the other danger is much bigger, which is that an autocratic society, basically whatever the Stasi was doing, it's like ridiculous compared to what you can do with advanced AI. You could basically bug everyone's home, trace everyone's movements, even basically guess at their thoughts. And having that sort of control, and I mean, if you think what the Communist Party in China could do with that, I think that's the bigger danger to humanity than the Lumpenproletariat scenario, but it's certainly there as well. Yeah.
Total surveillance, that is indeed. It could be here already. We don't really know about it. I mean, I'm wearing this little watch here. And
look at this. It looks.
yeah, it's watching. It's monitoring my
That's why it's called watch, Rudy. It's watching.
That's why it's called watch.
Good point.
Indeed. Yeah, and so if I'm looking at some content and then the watch can actually measure my reaction to it. So the state can essentially conclude what my opinions are. So which party I vote for and what else. Everything, essentially. So it can read thoughts in essence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is another scenario of AI that I didn't include in my introduction. That is actually worth another talk. This is a big topic, I think.
Yeah. So I would agree with what Thorsten said about the Lumpenproletariat. So I guess that is not really that dangerous because people who are lazy are also not doing anything, right? I mean, nothing dangerous usually. I mean, they will not start a revolution or anything. But if you look at dangerous ideologies like some kind of fascist ideology or authoritarian or religious ideologies that are dangerous. For example, Islam could be really dangerous. The way that it is exercised in some societies is problematic. I think it's also for the development of AI, and these ideologies that might be the bigger danger than having lazy people sitting around and doing nothing and being fed by machines.
I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, Rudy, you said Lumpenproletariat poses some sort of danger, but I do tend to agree with Christian that these sorts of like the danger has always been that these people don't have enough food, right? And that's when revolutions happen. But basically, as long as they get their basic needs met, they're probably not gonna, stir up any trouble, right? What do you think about that?
We don't have any experience with that scenario. I think maybe in Rome, if you look back at Rome, there was actually the Roman citizens actually had a extensive social security network.
Mhm.
So that is would be interesting to study what happened then. But it seems like they were suffering from the same issues that we are suffering. So bread and games, of course, and
And by the way, they had all their natural intelligences to do their bidding, right? I mean, that Roman society worked and they were able to afford social security was, of course, based on slave labor, right? With slaves being based in a way sort of similar in how they were employed to what you're thinking about with the artificial intelligence now, right?
There's actually an interesting case study. I mean, people back then actually joked about that. Like Rome is a place where food goes in and shit goes out. So from the provinces, of course.
Yep.
So
yeah, that's a really fruitful analogy. I mean, I haven't really read up that much on the decadence besetting the later Roman Empire, but it might be a really good analogy. Yeah, good point.
yeah, so how about wrapping it up? So about my vanity projects, other vanity projects, and the AI revolution.
Sounds good. It was really fun.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really cool format, actually. So to talk a little bit about different perspectives, I think it was also relatively fairly distributed. So cool.
Yeah, maybe we meet again at some point and talk about this other topic that is interesting. Surveillance state.
Yeah.
I mean, people have been theorized about that. That cryptocurrency is the freedom technology, and AI is the opposite. Oh, yeah, that might be an interesting thing. Let's think about that offline. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for
Thank you
inviting.
for having us.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
And bye-bye. See you.
Bye-bye.